welcome readers. Today on Book Chat, we are finishing up our discussion of fantasy series An Ember in the Ashes. We are diving into the fourth and final book, A Sky Beyond the Storm. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Amazon Music. Check it out. It has 70 million songs, thousands of playlists. You can listen without commercials. Sign up today and get your first month for free using the Shelf Addiction link. Go to getamazonmusic.com/shelf addiction and sign up today. Again, the code is Shelf Addiction. The link is also in the show notes. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. Participate in this book discussion by joining the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. Talk about the series with us there, as well as other bookish topics. I hope to hear your thoughts on this book discussion. As always, you can find the three of us on Twitter and Instagram. The links for everything are below in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with some book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That would really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. We get even more candid with what we have to say. So if you're interested in that at all, you'll need to come on over to Patreon and sign up. Before we get started, I have to issue a spoiler warning. This is a roundtable book discussion, so nothing is off limits. You've been warned. Hey guys, this is Editing Tamara here. After the recording of this episode ended, I realized that my mic wasn't plugged in. Right, you know what that means. This is not the quality audio that you are accustomed to hearing from my voice, and I apologize for that. I tried to clean it up as best I could. I hope you're still able to enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another fantasy series read-along discussion. Today we are talking about the fourth and final book in our current read-along, A Sky Beyond the Storm. Joining me are my fantasy series read-along co-hosts, Casey and Nicola. Welcome back, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
So as we do, before we get going, we're going to run down everything. Casey, why don't you hit us up with the book stats?
All right. As we just said, A Sky Beyond the Storm is book 4 in the series, published by Razorbill back on December 1st, 2020. It was 527 pages long, and the audiobook was 17 hours and 9 minutes. And that was narrated by Fiona Hardingham, Catherine Leigh McEwen, Steve West, Matthew Caulfield, and Nikki Mosound.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
Nicola, why don't you hit us with the synopsis, please?
All right. From the Amazon summary, it says, prepare for the jaw-dropping finale of Sabaa Tahir's beloved New York Times best-selling An Ember in the Ashes fantasy series and discover who will survive the storm. Picking up just a few months after A Reaper at the Gates left off, the long-imprisoned Jinn are on the attack, wreaking bloody havoc in villages and cities alike. But for the Nightbringer, vengeance on his human foes is just the beginning. By his side, Commandant Karis Vituria, I always want to put an N in that, like Venturia. Karis Vituria declares herself empress and calls for the heads of any and all who defy her rule. At the top of the list, the Blood Shrike and her remaining family. Laya of Sarah, now allied with the Blood Shrike, struggles to recover from the loss of the two people most important to her. Determined to stop the approaching apocalypse, she throws herself into the destruction of the Nightbringer. In the process, she awakens an ancient power that could lead her to victory or to an unimaginable doom. And deep in the waiting place, the Soul Catcher seeks only to forget the life and love he left behind. Yet doing so means ignoring the trail of murder left behind by the Nightbringer and his Jinn. To uphold his oath and protect the human world from the supernatural, the Soul Catcher must look beyond the borders of his own land. He must take on a mission that could save or destroy all that he knows.
Mm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So what'd you think of the conclusion? Like high level, did you approve, disapprove?
I liked it.
I liked it. I did not expect it. So this is going to be, just everybody knows, spoilers ahoy, right? So we're starting right in with the spoiler, I think. I I think every YA book and many, many fantasy books are about preventing the end of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one, what we thought was going to be the end of the world, did not get prevented, right? It's a weird way to put it, but yeah, that was the thing that surprised me most, is that the thing that they were most afraid of actually did happen. And it's kind of like how they deal with it, and realizing that the world is going to go on, I guess. So I liked that. I liked that the apocalypse happened.
Yeah, I liked the ending. I really did, because you guys know I always preach I love a realistic ending. This wasn't 100% realistic, but it had some realistic things happening, as well as the happily ever after. So we got the feel goods along with the dose of reality. Not everyone made it out, and I was good with that. Not that I was happy that people died, but you can't go to war and not have any casualties, important casualties, right? You can't be like, oh, this is the end of the world, and all the important characters survive. That's a no-go for me. So I think that Sabah did a good job balancing, like, this is what's that, and this is a happy ending, so that everyone can feel good and optimistic at the end. So I think the end was the best part about the book.
That's fair.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's good. That's actually really, like, the beginning was pretty slow. It took how many months for all of the wandering around to happen? Like, it took a while for the climax to happen.
Yeah. And it was kind of a meandering story a little bit. And I feel like some of the scenes, like the war scenes and the fighting scenes, were like really long sometimes to me. So I feel torn. Like, I liked a lot of aspects about it, but I didn't love a good amount of aspects about it. It was a really long book.
It was a long book. I think it needed some editing. I found the first half or so pretty slow. And it's always hard for me to tell if it's what's going on in my life that makes it hard for me to get into a book, or if it's the book that's just hard to get into. Because I've got a lot going on right now personally. So, but I started it a little extra early because of that. And I finished it a little bit a few days ago. So I did find about the first half a little bit slow. But I think what I liked about this book relative to the other ones is the character arcs that we got for the three main players, as well as the Nightbringer, and as well as Cook. I really loved the ending that she got.
She's alive, y'all.
Yeah.
She's not dead. There was no body. She's not dead.
You were right. You guys were right.
Yep. No body, not dead.
Yeah.
I kept waiting for her to pop up, and then when she did, I was like, yes, I called it.
Well, if you think about it, not only was there not a body, we never heard about her ghost. She was just not there.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Not there.
Yep.
So,
yep.
That was really good.
Oh, and I did go back. I don't know if I actually said it out loud in the last podcast, but I didn't totally finish the third book in time for the podcast. So I did go back and finish that. So I agreed with you guys at that point. Like, yeah, there's definitely Cook is definitely still around. So I was inferring things, I skimmed through it. So I wasn't sure, but yeah, so I finished off the third book. I did like it better after I had done that. And then, I really liked the character driven part of this last book. The plot driven part got a little, wandery at times, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I did like, and I did kind of say, the Nightbringer, he would not get a redemption arc. He kind of did, but not in the way that you would expect a traditional redemption arc to be. He did die, and he deserved to die. He did a lot of bad things, and he was lucky he got, for the sake of the world, he got what he got, right? It weren't because, the whole earth was...
Well, and he got peace,
Yeah. Although... And it's like, it's hard to say because it's a whole sins of thy father thing. You know what I'm saying? Do you pay for the sins of your father or do you not? Was he entitled to that rampage or was he not? So it's like, I kind of feel about him like he's a bad dude and he did a lot of rude things, namely killing Lia's brother, of course. Like
right at the end. Oh,
right,
that was killer.
Damn, you went out like, oh my God. I was so mad. But you kind of understand like the root of it all and why he was so angry and vindictive about it. But that doesn't make it okay. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like he got the best he could get under the circumstances. And I was okay with that.
Yeah. And his actions are almost parallel to any other hero's journey. You know, his family was murdered and massacred. So he set out for vengeance. And that's literally the hero's journey, except he took it a step way too far, you know, and killed people for a millennia and fell in love with people for a millennia. Like, I could understand him more. I didn't empathize with him, but I did pity him.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. I did like and I would have liked to see, I think maybe it's just me being the character lover. I like that we got a glimpse of another one of his love affairs, right? And I like that we got the sense that he truly did love everyone that he had to, you know, try to collect the star bits from, and that cost him emotionally. And that it made him sad, like, because you don't see sadness in most big terrible villains, right? They're full of anger and rage and or psychopathic evil, you know, but you don't tend to see them feeling sad. And
it humanized him.
Yeah, he was a complex kind of villain. He had a lot of facets, but he was still, what I liked about it is that while he had a lot of different sides to him, while we did see, yes, he actually did care about Lia, he did love his wife, he did care about his human mother, all of these things, he was still a villain. Like it didn't make the water murky where you're like, well, maybe I can, you know, he's still a villain. Like you feel a way unfortunate, but you know, you still did bad shit. And I like that. It was like a really good balance of like not making him this very flat, dry villain, but making it clear he still is the villain while he still has emotions and feelings and opinions and all that other stuff.
Yeah. And if the story was told from his point of view, he would still look almost the same. Like there'd be more empathy because it's told from his point of view, but he's still killing children. He's still, you know, falling in love and then abandoning those people. So there's still so much torment and trauma. And he loved Lia. He absolutely loved her. And he knew that killing her brother would destroy her. But he did it anyway. And that's what makes him a villain instead of a hero. Yeah, no, it was the snap of his fingers.
He wanted her to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, that was all part of his plan, right? And that was the ultimate end all be all. But that's who he was from the start. When he was that little kid with his adopted mother, you know, he left with her necklace and then he never spoke to her ever again. And there was that line where he was like, she died with her son's names on his lips, not knowing why he had abandoned her, and I still mourn her. And so it's that complex of like, fuck you, I hate you, human, but also like that emotional.
But then I start to wonder, like, do you even deserve to feel that way? Like, for example, with Lia, like keeping it real simple. Like, you loved her. You said you love her. You said, you know, all these things. But because you want her to do a certain action, you're going to manipulate her to the very end. You're going to kill her only family left, in your opinion. You don't give a shit. So really, how am I supposed to feel like
you actually love her? Like you can love her.
But then you kill her only family because you want her to do something. So his love is conditional and it's under manipulation. So that is another reason why I'm like, he's a villain.
Oh,
yeah, that's
absolutely.
A really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yes.
That the manipulation part is key.
Yeah.
But complex. Ooh, I love these complex characters.
Yeah.
What did you think of the Nightbringer's interaction with? And did you guys in your head call it mouth or moth or something?
Mouth.
Mouth.
Yeah, like mouth. Yeah.
How did the audiobook sound?
Oh my God. Meth? Mouth? Meth? Oh my God, I forgot.
It's better than
It's
mouth.
now meth.
Like I like mouth is like yeah. Okay. Anyway,
every time I heard it, all I could think was I need to see the spelling because it sounded not exactly identical every single time. So I'm like, I don't know how the hell you say it, but
Mauth.
Okay.
So somewhere between moth and mouth.
Yeah, I don't know. That guy or I don't know. Entity. I just, at the end there, I'm like, okay, it got its life together. It understands, like when Laya's mother came and was like, call him here. And he didn't want to come. And she's like, well, you're not going to ignore me. I know what kind of, gig you're running over here. Show your face. And he caved. He let Elias out of it. He said, hey, you can keep your wind walking, but you're always welcome here. I thought like at the end of it all, he seemed to get some kind of reason after he saw Elias was actually trying to help the dead. I think he was not sure what Elias was actually trying to do, but he let him free, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, there was some there was some good interactions with Mouth and Elias talking about the power of love, right? And the reason why he needed to keep his memories and to keep his emotions. And I thought that was a good pivotal scene. It was like the scenes with the Nightbringer that were a little bit like, how do I want to put this? Unlike a typical book, right? It kind of breaks the formula a little bit to have the big evil guy having this conversation with the powers that be or whatever.
Was it, you guys, was it Moth/Mouth, whatever? Wasn't he death? He's death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's kind of like the universe, energy, karma, God. Like
I feel like Elias called him death at one point. Like when they
he did call him death, but I just thought it was more than...
I thought he was more than death, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he brought the Nightbringer to life. And he brought the humans to life, and he brought like everything to life. So there's life and death in him. And originally I thought the powers that was buried in Laya when she started talking about the dark magical stuff inside her at the beginning, I thought that was going to be like his counterbalance. So we'd have like life and death fighting each other. I did not guess that it'd be the Nightbringer's wife. Like, I should have seen that coming. But I was like, no, this is going to be like life and death fighting, and it's Elias versus Laya, and like all this stuff. Nope, I was totally wrong.
I didn't expect it to be his wife, but I was not surprised that it was a Jinn. I'm like, because we couldn't explain earlier, like all of this from an Ifrit, really? Like it just didn't really connect all the way when some people had, people didn't, and then it was like, well, everyone has a little something anyway. Kind of thing. It kind of made sense.
Well, not everyone, but like the descendants of those original 7, was it?
It was 100 people.
100. Yeah.
It was 100 like 1,000 years ago. So now,
right.
But millions of people have the little seeds somewhere planted in them.
Mm-hmm. Like the boy at the beginning.
And Taz and all 3 of our main characters, and probably half the resistance.
Yeah, a lot of people have something, even if it's a little something of something. It seems like, I guess there are some people that might not, but after so many years.
Yeah, and they were saying it hasn't like come to fruition in some people either.
Yeah.
Laya's only got hers after she started fighting, but they said her brother, he had the magic too, just hadn't come out yet. And so if he wasn't killed immediately and so viciously, he probably could have gotten it later.
Yeah, it was something about it was a little bit murky, I guess. Still there's quite a bit of hand waving in that little bit of mythology, I thought, as far as like, how does it come to life and what, but yeah. And then that whole ritual that they did with the Jadun, that let the wife sort of fully come to power. That was weird. That was I shouldn't say weird. That was unique. It was a really original bit of world building, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I really didn't understand what was happening. I actually had to go back a little bit. I'm like, let me just go through that one more time. Because the first time through, I'm like, what exactly happened? I don't know, but okay.
Well,
talking through it now, like I can't quite explain it either, so maybe I missed a few bits too.
It was magic. There was hand waving.
And that's how I took it. I'm like, okay, the shit's happened. That's how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna, because I'm not gonna listen again. I'm not gonna go back again and try to sort it out. So
you had 17 hours to listen.
There was that throwaway comment too that Laya's mother made. I want to stop calling her Cook. What was her name?
Mira?
Yeah. So
Lioness.
That Mira made about when you've touched the star, it makes you tougher or harder to kill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Another bit of woo-woo, a little bit, right?
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
The author made it whatever she needed it to be to fit what she was trying to accomplish. And
it worked. Like the Nightbringer couldn't kill Laya or Elias or all these other people that he supposedly loved. Like, it was a little hand wavy, but it fit. It fit with this world building.
Helene.
Yeah, and how the last Jinn that was still alive was able to restore his memories, basically, for Laya and for Helena. What's her name? I don't know. Whatever.
Helene.
And how he was able to say, "You won't forget these people. I don't care what he does."
Oh, right, Cain.
You're not gonna forget these people. And then he pretty much was like, "Please kill me."
No, I kind of liked that bit where the Jinn speak prophecy when they die. And so Cain wanted to make sure that whatever came out of his mouth was not overheard by the rest of the Jinn. He wanted to give that piece of power to Elias. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. And it helped him. And you know what? I said it. I said, Elias is getting out of this. He is getting out of it because there is no way a YA with an understory of romance would allow that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I might know the how or the when, but I said, he is getting out that mug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was pretty clear because of the terms of his oath were like, until some other human comes along that's suited for it,
And then it's
who's that going to be? I didn't predict
it has to be a human. So it's
I didn't predict that would be Mira.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love how that's turned out.
That really is a perfect end for her. I loved that.
Yeah, because she's still alive. Obviously, she still can visit Laya because she did on her first night of storytelling for a crowd. And she is alone with her misery. She is, she's a great, person to pass the ghost through. Apparently, she did the job really well.
Yeah, no nonsense.
No nonsense. Let's get it done. And, she fit, And so we'll see how long she does it for, because it was implied she wouldn't be doing it forever. So
I missed that.
Well,
part.
Hopefully the Jinn will start doing it again. That was
right. There's a couple of them that had sort of drifted back.
Yeah, one for sure.
With their job all before. So I had kind of assumed that they would take over and let Elias out. I didn't expect somebody to actually take over for him this way. So that was a good ending in that sense. I really liked that and it fit.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about?
I had to be human, but whatever. We'll let it go.
How do you feel about Karis's death, Tamara?
Okay, so I liked it, but I wanted Elias to kill her. As we know, I've said that a bunch of times, but I'm okay with it. Especially when we figured out how they added Mira to the mix, and she was the one that originally was trying to kill her, and she got to follow through on that in the end. I was okay with it. I mean, I feel like she kind of got off easy, but I think she falls in the same category to me as the Nightbringer. Like, she is evil.com. You tried to murder your son, you murdered a bunch of people, but in the end, you got to kind of like, you dealt with your demons, you dealt with all the bad shit you did, and now you're reverted to the last place where you were a decent human being, and you can go off with your mother. So while I kind of felt like I want to see her be tortured a little bit, but
she was actually worse than the Nightbringer, because he had a plan from the start. You know, it was always revenge. It was always getting the star back together. She was avenging her lover at first, and then it just kept going and going and going and going. And all of a sudden she's killing students at her school and just like slaughtering people everywhere and creating genocide.
They gave us another backstory for Karis, right? When she was a little bitty baby and her mother was getting tortured. By the resistance.
She felt bad. She was telling her to like stop yelling or stop crying or something. You know, she was kind of like telling her mother, like, I can't stand to hear that. It's making me feel bad. And her mother was like, I don't care, you know.
Like I can't help it.
You. But she was a child. I think she was definitely under the age of like 7 or 8. She was definitely
she was little, and so that was traumatizing. But you know, when Elias met his dad, he was like, your mother wasn't always this way, you know. We were young, we fell in love, like we were actually in love. It wasn't a terrible birth by any stretch of the imagination. But she was forced to watch him be murdered, and that's kind of what broke her.
Trigger.
Yeah, I think
even though, you know, she went out and killed all those men, which again, vengeance, she just kept going from that point. Like it broke her so much that there was no plan for her. Like,
I think
the Nightbringer had a plan. She didn't.
The straw that broke the camel's back, I think. I think she was kind of always in there like that, but I think maybe that love and that relationship kind of kept her from going wild.
Like if he hadn't died, then I don't think she would have been this evil.
No.
And the story never would have happened this way.
But it was weird. Like, okay, so you went through all of that. You want to be the emperor, fine. But I don't know.
I think if there's a weakness in the book, it's Karis's character. I just, you know, for her to be that flat evil and kind of dumb about it, you know, like she doesn't seem to realize she's the Nightbringer's tool. She doesn't seem to realize that, you know, she's bringing about the destruction of humanity. She doesn't. Or
there was one throwaway sentence where from the Nightbringer's point of view, where they're talking and he asks if she can kill Elias, and she says, no, I don't think I can. I think it's that scene. Like she's feeling a lot of emotion and he's surprised by this emotion. And so as she's walking away, he uses his magic to like erase those emotions from her and make her, you know, smoothed out, I think is what he said, to like be his angry little tool. So there was a lot of emotional manipulation from him in that sense. The way Elias was being, you know, having his emotions erased too.
Interesting.
It was a very tiny little throwaway.
I think I missed that. I think I missed that he was sort of controlling her mind in that respect.
Yeah. It wasn't like entirely controlled, but it was just like you're actually like feeling an emotion about this right now. Let me get rid of that emotion for you. So you're my angry little tool and nothing else, and not, you know, sad in this moment or something. Like it was just.
She was going to kill Elias as a baby.
But she didn't. She didn't. There was something that stopped her.
She was going to do it. She said, no, I'm going to send them. I'm going to put them with these you know, people, their tribes. And then wait, let me go back. She was going to go back and do it, but he was gone. So it's like, well, I don't think.
And then she saw him again when he was like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
She couldn't kill him then either. And she looked at Zacharias and tried to kill him, but couldn't.
And I can't feel any kind of empathy toward her at all.
Not at all. I don't even pity her.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the fact that you cannot feel any empathy for her is a little, I don't know. That's, to me, it's a little bit of a weakness in the writing.
Mm.
If I had to choose one thing,
the main villain for a long time before the Nightbringer was like behind. Kind of pulling her strings a little bit.
Well, the Nightbringer showed up pretty early on, right? When Laia was was a prisoner there.
But it wasn't clear immediately that she wasn't pulling his strings, or that she didn't.
I think it was. I think it was clear.
I didn't think so, because
we knew that he was there and he was powerful and he was scary.
Was it second book where he kept saying, "No, I'm the one telling her what to do"? Before then, it was
in the first book, there were all those hints that, she knows things that she shouldn't be able to know. So to me, it wasn't necessarily, maybe we didn't know that he was pulling the strings, but we knew that he was a supernatural power and that he was
they were working together.
Abetting, that they were working together. So I guess I assumed that somebody with those powers was not going to be serving a mere human. So I guess to me it was pretty clear that he was the big bad and she was the lieutenant bad.
I knew he was a bad then. I just didn't know, like maybe she had a spell over him or something. Like I knew.
Sure, or could have gone different. I could have been wrong, right?
Yeah,
but that was my take on it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't like her. I never liked her, and I'm glad she died. And I guess it's a good thing that Elias didn't have to kill his own mother. That would have been really brutal. So I'm kind of glad he didn't have to in the end. Someone else took care of it. And even he didn't even have to pass her on. Mira did that. So I'm like, that was a relief, because I would have hated to have to pass my mother on.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that Katrina, that Karis's mother, I liked the whole thread of her being stuck in the waiting place, because it made it a little, that passing along part, it made it a little easier, I think, that they could pass together.
I thought it was kind of strange at first when, Karis first saw her, and she's like, Mom, she's trying to talk to her, and she's like, my daughter is dead. I'm like, damn. I'm like, okay, she's crazy.
Yes.
But, that is your kid. I'm like, what is happening? And then I'm like, okay, I guess she had to wait until she got through her trials or whatever she needed to get through.
Yeah, no, I feel like that was more torturous than anything else anybody could have done to her.
Right.
Yeah.
To be rejected by your mother.
That's been waiting forever.
Yeah.
For you there. I'm like,
yeah, for 30 years.
When you whip 7-year-olds to death, maybe you should have a conscience about that.
Yeah, you should. She didn't have a conscience about anything she did.
She didn't.
No, she didn't.
And when it comes down to it, she could not, Casey says she was under the influence, and that's fine, but she couldn't break through that.
I mean, much, like he's smoothing out some of her emotions. It's still
did it.
85% her. Yeah.
If he wasn't lucky and got out of that from, the deaf guy, mouth, he would have been dead. He would have been dead. So
it's not clear in the story, I don't think, when Karis became under the influence of the Nightbringer, right? I mean, could it have gone on because she's been this cruel mistress for all of Elias's life, right? So for 15 years, something like that, 17 years. But we only know for sure that Mouth has been involved, or not Mouth, but the Nightbringer's been involved, for the last 2 or 3. But, there was that ongoing, she knows things she shouldn't know, right?
So when the Nightbringer first became Keenan, he was taken into the Resistance by Laia's father. I felt like that was when he first aligned himself with
Karis?
With Karis. because, somebody ratted out the Alliance. Somebody ratted out who the lioness was and, gave up her parents and everything. And Cook, in book 1, Cook was talking about how somebody in their troop betrayed them. And I don't think she knew, it wasn't quite stated, but it was definitely Keenan because, he was a 7-year-old boy who was actually the Nightbringer. I feel like at that point, he,
you're probably right,
made contact with her, and because that's when she got them and killed everybody and started torturing that's when everything went downhill. So
yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah, this is a very long story, even though we only get to see 2 years of it. Come to find out, from start to finish, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what Elias says, how long she's known Elias at the end there. But even within that, this is a very long, very deep story that goes back a lot of time.
A lot of pages.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pages in these 4 books.
Absolutely. So speaking of some, Elias had some loss. Clearly, Laya had lost, but so did Helene. Helene lost 2 people. She lost her sister. She lost her sister. And she lost Harper. And I'm like, you just gave it to that guy. And now
I know. Honestly,
I feel bad for her. Damn.
Her sister's death hurt me more than Harper. Just because the scene before, they'd been so happy and laughing and teasing and being sisters, for the first time since book 1, probably. If not, a flashback from their childhood.
They were calling her Strike. She was calling her by her name.
Yeah.
They
were giggling and they were happy.
Yeah.
And they were being sisters. And then 30 seconds later,
Yeah. I mean, all 3 of them lost almost their entire family, right?
Yeah.
So Elias kept his grandfather, right?
Yeah.
I forget his name, but he survived.
And he's now the blood strike of Helene. Helene's
70 years old. I was like,
yeah.
This is a different kind of lifespan.
But you guys think about it, the blood strike doesn't technically need to go around murdering people. He just needs for people to be afraid of him, and he commands people.
Yeah. Plus, he's been in all these battles for the last 6 months and survived everything. So I'm like, he's got at least a decade left in him.
Well, that's what I mean by this is a different kind of human being, right? I mean, so I don't know. That seems
maybe he has some of the magic in him too.
Oh yeah, no, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. And he must, right? Because and then the other thing is, the 3 here are 19.
Mm-hmm.
That's really young to do the stuff that they've been doing. Anyway, that made me wonder. But yeah. So was anybody else left from Elias's family? He didn't have a lot to begin with. Mama. So Mamie, the Mamie Rayleigh, was that her name?
Well, she's alive, and his stepbrother's alive too, right?
Most of his tribes people family survived.
You said
I
his
think.
Stepbrother? Who's his stepbrother?
From when he was with the tribes.
Oh, the tribes.
Was it Sean or
something?
Something with an S.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember. There are so many people. But him, we saw him very briefly in this book, and he hugged Elias, and Elias was being his aloof.
What was kind of interesting about the tribes people family is there weren't very many men there. There were a couple, but Mamie seems to be single and Afia seems to be single, and the powerful women did not seem to have husbands. I don't know. It was just it was noticeable to me that, Elias doesn't really have a father figure. I did love that he met his father in the waiting place and kind of a conversation with him. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty female centric throughout the book.
And maybe that was by design, or maybe it was coincidence. I don't know.
So we've got a female as one of the major evils. We've got a female that chains the big bad and makes him go away, right? We've got a female that wins the waiting place. We've got 2 out of the 3 principals are women. So I think that's kind of interesting. Yeah. And there was one kind of small comment about, I think it was about one of the allies. Was it the Mariners maybe? And the Helene, the Blood Shrike, notices that they have a lot of female guards, and it was something that she wanted to make happen in the Marshals. Like, she's like, yeah, this is the right way to do things. We gotta fix this. And that was like
Musa's wife.
Musa, his wife. Yes. And all of it was the Mariners. Marines. And then like I think it was on the last page at the very end, they're like, okay, we're bringing in an all-female class to the new Blackcliff.
I think it was even in this book. I think it was this book. Yeah, like when the people were asking Helene, who are going to be in this army? Are the women going to fight? And she's like, hello? Did you forget? Yeah. Don't play me. We, women can fight. What is your problem? So,
but remember, with the masks, there was only 1 woman per class. So that was a very, very, which is a weird thing. I still don't think that makes any sense. But I
think that was what the augurs decreed or whatever, because they saw this happening and they wanted to make sure Helene was like in place. That was what I assumed.
But why wouldn't it just be half and half?
Because they're sexist old ancient beings who, I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought it was just sexist.
I don't know.
There was no real reason. I mean, maybe Casey, you have a point. Maybe it was by design to make sure no one else slipped under the radar and got through what they wanted to do. Maybe. I don't know. I just think it's just sexism. Because clearly all the men in the room, so like these women can't fight. Who's going to be in the army? And she's like,
well, yeah. I mean, Helene had to kind of lose her femininity to succeed, as did any of the single women in the different classes. And we never heard about any of the other girls in any of the other classes other than Karis, right? So, so I don't know if a lot of them just wash out at the beginning or what.
She definitely lost that femininity, and I'm okay with that in this case, because when you're in a room with a bunch of dudes all the time, you just kind of have to conform a little bit so you're not looked at as the weak woman. And I get that, because even towards the end, she went to that party and they're like, could you at least wear a dress? She's like, I'm like, do you know who you're talking to? Why would she wear a dress? Of course she's going to be in fighting gear in case she needs to beat someone's ass at a drop of a dime. She's not going to be in a dress. That's weak, according,
Right.
In that realm. Obviously, but I know there are power dresses that command power. But
yes,
her case that she needs to wear her fighting gear.
I think it's really significant that they mentioned it in here at one point that like the only time she had worn her hair down, or the last time she'd worn her hair down, was at the dinner at her family's home where she after graduation, but it was in order to, she did a power play on some of the painters, right? And the wearing her hair down was a deliberate deception.
Yeah, kind of disarming them a little bit, like
to underestimate her.
Yeah, which they did.
They did. Okay, I think this is a great time to take a quick break. We're going to go to a commercial break and we're going to be right back. We have lots more to discuss, so stay with us.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item.
Welcome back. We're going to finish out our conversation because we still have a lot of to cover, in my opinion. I still want to talk about like Helene some more. Like,
oh yeah.
Personally, I felt really bad for her on so many levels. Like she has been my favorite character out of this whole series.
Mm-hmm.
And
She's
now
great.
she's
Love her.
yeah, she's very like she's grown a lot from day one to now. Like even if she was dancing with Elias at that event, she's like, who would have thought? Like, this is what I wanted back in the day, to feel his hand in mine. And she's like, nah, man, we friends, we cool. And she even tells him, like at a certain point, like going back a little bit when he was still, what do you call it? The guy that crossed over the ghost, when he was still in that role, and he went to say goodbye to Laya because he knew, hey, he's like, don't hurt her. Don't. That's my friend.
I loved that friendship that they built.
Yes,
that we see like from chapter 1.
I love that. So I love her because she is grown. She is not that same bratty girl.
No. I remember we talked about this at the beginning, episode or book 1 and book 2. We were worried that it'd just be like this super drama love triangle with the 3 of them fighting over him. Like,
I thought for sure she was going to get killed off.
Yeah, I'm so happy she didn't.
Me too. This was great.
I do feel like she was broken worse than Laya was, because even though they both lost their entire families, Laya only, visually witnessed her brother dying, whereas Helene had to visually witness every member of her family getting their throat slit.
I think it's not just about witnessing. I think, Helene has this guardian military powerful role, right? And so she feels responsible that she didn't protect the people that she loves and her family. And she knows it was political, but she also, so I think you're right. I think it was worse for her than for Laya. Because in most cases, it was just like for Laya, especially the opening scene where her grandparents are killed, there's absolutely nothing she could have done about that. And I don't think she ever felt guilty about it particularly, like, oh, I should have protected them. She felt a little bit guilty for running away, but I don't think she ever had these moments of, oh, if only I had done whatever, then my grandparents would still be alive. I don't think she had that burden. And her mom is still alive, right? So Helene has like nobody.
Her nephew,
right?
Her baby nephew.
Well, she felt extreme guilt. Like she did feel guilt about her family, but she felt more guilt about her sister. She's like, why? It's to the point where she almost didn't make that promise to her nephew because she didn't think she could hold it up. She's like, what if I can't protect him? Like I promised my sister, and look what happened to her.
I mean, it was so sudden, and she was sitting there holding her hand, crying and singing, and I was just like, my heart, I can't take this.
Yeah,
it was so meaningless, right?
It was. It really was.
It reminds me of a little bit of, the book that everybody hated to read sophomore year in high school, All Quiet on the Western Front, right? Because I know, but you get through almost all of the worst part, and then you still, have this death, and it felt a little bit like that for the sister and for Darren to me.
Helene walked in that room, and Karis was in there. Oh my God.
I had to read that sentence like 3 times to make sure it was the right person. Like, I was like, I'm not imagining this. Like, this is actually her. She just appeared from this window. Like, it's not.
I'm like, that's fucking bitch. I'm like, oh my God, that's how I felt about Karis. She is the worst. I'm like, oh man, I got a verbal reaction with that. Like, I was really really mad at that.
Yeah, me too.
So, I mean, she's been through a lot, and she's got a lot to go. Like, okay, well, you guys, what do you think about her and what's his face being together?
Harper?
Musa or Harper?
Say the name again.
Musa.
I like it.
I think they will find love with each other eventually. Like, I don't think it's right away because they're both still in mourning, because he got that letter of his wife dying and he was just sobbing, which again was also really heartbreaking because he's like, she's been lost to me for, I think it was 10 years now or something. But he's like, but I still love her. And she just lost Harper a month of weeks.
Yeah,
very recently. So
I like the way they handled it. They didn't like jump right into oh my gosh, you're the one for me. You know, they're like, we can help each other heal. We can keep each other from spiraling down, you know.
Yeah.
We can be friends. We have common pain, you know. I thought it was nicely done. So I don't have to imagine that they're together forever, but I can imagine that they'll help each other get through this tough time.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I see it, is how Nicola sees it. Like, I'm not confident. Like, they're not made, they might not be made for each other. They may, I don't know. But like, they have a purpose in each other's lives right now. Like, even in the book, it says like 2 halves became a whole for this night, right? Like tonight.
Right.
So it's like, they are friends and they may become more eventually, because even she kind of mentioned something about feeling a little something. So, I mean, they have a purpose for each other at this point in time. And who knows if that's going to be love or not.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm the last one that can actually speak to the realities of combat, but I do think that that's realistic for 2 comrades that have been through such a, you know, combat, have been through a war together, have seen allies and friends and people they were close to fall. I think that that's a thing that brings people together, even if they might not have clicked in a peaceful in a life of peace, you know.
Actually, that happens in quite a few books that I come across, where it's like a romantic suspense or something where they've been through the trauma together and now they're together. And in this case, they may not be together forever, and I'm okay with that. Or they might, and I'm okay with that too. Like, I don't feel any kind of negativity about them, the possibility of them ending up together.
I'm glad they have each other for now.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, I swear she is my favorite. She is my favorite out of everyone. Do you guys have a favorite character out of the series?
I know this is cliche, but I really liked Laia. Like, I loved her growth from page 1 to the end of this book. And I want to mention again, like, page 1, when I first opened this book and first read it, I immediately thought Laia was like 12 because she was so young and innocent and scared sounding. Like, it was very, I don't want to call her weak, but like very little, very scared, not very aware of the world, wants to hide. Again, like, I saw her 12, naive. Yeah, but she was actually 17 at that point. And she has grown so much in these 4 books, from that scared little 12-year-old to somebody who literally hacks the Nightbringer's neck off because he killed her brother. Like, you know, just comparing those 2 scenes and how far she's grown. I love that. But I also love Helene. Like, everything she went through was so heartbreaking. And oh my God. And her sister was so strong in so many other different ways that you really can't appreciate. Like, the fact that she had Zacharias at all. I don't think I would have done that. Even knowing, like, I gotta make an heir. Like, I wouldn't have done that willingly.
I feel like I need to have a lot of drinks and can someone have some weed or something before I have to. Like,
it would have been.
I need to be intoxicated because this can't not gonna happen.
I thought she made that choice. She's like, I gotta get pregnant, so I'm gonna get fucking pregnant. I'm gonna give birth, and you know, I'm right in the middle of this war, and this baby's coming out. You know, in book 3, and now she's like, I gotta protect this baby, and I gotta be political, and I'm the empress, and she was so strong in so many different ways, and I'm really sad that we didn't get to see more of her, and that she died so needlessly. Like, wow,
I know,
that was the worst. Out of all the deaths, I really mourned her the most in this book.
You guys caught in the 3rd book, right, that Mira made the baby come early? That she precipitated. She told Laia, she's like, you need a way in, and this is your
the
way
distraction
in. That's right. Right.
And they gave her the tea, and it's like, you remember that the stuff
the
you learned
tea
from the
tasted
midwife?
weird.
That's right.
You guys didn't pick up on that the first time?
Now that you say it, it just didn't stick with me. But
the baby came early.
Yeah,
So
and the irony that now that the baby is kind of chilling with, Laya and her, and the tribes people, so that he could learn about all the people and be, protected in a way that's away from Helene because she is a target on her back.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I love like how that happened. Like, oh, what better person to keep an eye on this baby than the person that gave birth to the baby, that helped deliver the baby, not give birth to, but deliver the baby.
Right. Right.
And of course, her best friend, friend who was like, hey, what a great combo.
Yeah. So I don't know that I have a favorite of the three main protagonists, but like we were saying a few minutes ago, I love the way the triumvirate developed, right? I liked that there was that sexual tension early between Elias and Helene because it almost seems mandatory. Like when you're 17 and you're friends with the only girl in the barracks, yeah, you're going to have thoughts, so I just like that they had those feelings and that they got past it and they realized it wasn't really right and it was more of a proximity thing than a deep heartfelt thing, and that they deepened their relationship from there instead of scuttling it, and some of that was just circumstance, right? They had to work together to make all this stuff happen. But I loved all the conflict between all the three of them, Laya and Helene and Elias and Laya. And I mean, every single relationship there went through fire and came out stronger. And I really liked that about this book or this series in particular. And it's unusual. Usually you have the YA triangle and somebody dies, right? So and I think we talked about this on book one, and you guys are both like, make a choice. You have to choose. Don't just.
But that's why
you can't kill her off.
To piggyback off of what you said, Nicola, back at book one, that's why I felt it wasn't a triangle. Because to me, it was so clear that it was, yes, he finds her hot, but he's not in love with her. You know what I'm saying? It's clear. He's not have serious feelings about her. He definitely finds her attractive and that's normal, but that doesn't mean it's a love triangle, right?
Well, it was obvious to us as adult women, but was it obvious to him as a 17-year-old boy?
Well, he kept questioning it, and I remember it kind of weirded him out at first because he's like, I never thought about her this way. Why am I thinking about her this way now? And so it was the hints of the love triangle, and it could have gone very, very wrong. But I'm very, very happy the way it played out. Yeah,
she made it much more mature versus.
I liked the other element I liked about these books was the way the prophecies kind of threaded through it. Now the very ending one about the three of them, it made it seem like I can't remember. It made it that there was something at Black Cliff, like a statue or something with an inscription, and it implied that it was one person saving everybody, and it turned out to be the three of them. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Very vaguely.
I'd have to look it up. I liked the only thing that I don't remember seeing that phrase earlier in the series. I would have liked it if it had been more embedded in the story.
The ogre said it.
Who did?
The ogre. One of the ogres said it, didn't they?
The ogre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Girl, I'm pronunciation. I don't. Whatever.
It's
you know
okay.
What I'm talking about.
Yes, Kane.
Yeah,
Kane and his crew.
You say ogre, and I think of Shrek. So.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the best ogre out there.
The prophecy that he gave them was the three of them.
Yeah, and the mother watches over them all. I don't know. I just liked how they. I liked the part that prophecy played in the story.
Because technically it all came true.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not in the way they saw it.
It's all about interpretation.
Perspective. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot. There are a lot of ties and a lot of connective tissues to everything. And it came together in a way that like there was a lot, and the author managed to pull it together without any like loose ends, I don't think. Sometimes you're like, well, what about this?
Yeah.
Or what about that? But I feel like it all came through, even through the prophecies. Like we can directly see the even the titles of the books.
Yes.
Tied in.
I love this.
It kept mentioning that over and over and over again. Like it almost got repetitively ridiculous in this last book. But I did realize that we had said last time, book 3, A Reaper at the Gate, we all thought it was about Elias, but it was actually the Nightbringer.
Yeah.
And so I appreciated that little note. But yeah, no. He's an ember in the ashes. She's an ember in the ashes. She's a torch in the night. And I'm just like, how many times are you going to say this? It's fun, but how many times are you going to say this?
Yeah, the ending is right there in the title, but I still didn't predict it. So
yeah. So that tells us, well, there is a sky beyond the storm, literally. The storm isn't the end.
One of the reasons I liked this book is that, you know, the first 3 books are just relentless tragedy and failure after failure after failure after failure. And like they finally started winning in this book. You know, Helene took back the city, you know, and the onset of, or when Laia gets to talk to the djinn whose name escapes me, the wife of the Nightbringer, Merwa, something like that. I can't remember. Remat?
Yeah.
The R name.
Yeah. So he's
Mahiria. It was a gender neutral name as she was acting for a minute, like, you know, okay. She's acting like a guy for a minute, or she thought she was a man for a minute.
It was interesting that there was some dwelling on whether the djinn were male or female, and like, do they really have to be one or the other? And like the author injected some doubt as to whether the djinn were gendered, but then kind of went with yes, they are. So I don't know, it felt like a little bit of a meander there. Like, why do we care whether Ramat is masculine or feminine? I guess it was just trying to identify who she was.
That's kind of how I got it, because, you know, at first I was like, who the fuck are you? What the fuck are you? You were inside me.
Yeah, that's really fucking weird.
Yeah. And I mean, she really didn't want her to reveal, like, to let her know that she knew the Nightbringer at all, like, or that she was married to him. I think that was what she wanted to conceal for the longest time, as long as she could.
Right, because she was conflicted, the Ramat was, about what to do, and Laia was right not to trust her, because Ramat had her own agenda, right? Remember, Ramat did not want Laia to kill him with the scythe.
Was that because she still loved him, or because she felt the prophecy of his death bringing about the fall and the apocalypse and all that?
Probably that second one, but Laia didn't know that. And
I mean, I was kind of getting that right there at the end, when she was like, don't do this, leave, there's something wrong, like, trust me right now. And then, you know, it happens. But leading up to that, you know, the first few times that she's around the djinn and she tries stealing in, she's like, I have to kill him. And the wife's like, no, please don't. I thought it was more of like I still love him and I don't want him to die, even though he's wrong kind of thing.
Yeah,
I interpreted it.
Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was not a trust there she had her own agenda, right? And Laia didn't know what it was, and she didn't share it, right? She wasn't open about what she thought should happen or what she was going to do to the Nightbringer. And maybe that was because, you know, the Nightbringer could read her mind or something. That part was kind of like hand wavy a little bit. Like you can't even think about this, or the Nightbringer will pluck it out of your head and then foil you. That was the whole thing about Helene and Mira's plan at the end, right? So.
But I feel like despite the motives of the djinn that was in Laia's head, she was right not to trust her for the plain fact that you're in my head and it's a huge lie of omission. I can't trust you. I don't care what your motives are. Period.
Well, she didn't fully show up until that day with the Jadoon. Is that the right word? The women in the Marin
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
She
Like
wasn't
held her
able
down
to-
and said, "Sorry, this is going to hurt." You know.
Right. But she was in there. She just wasn't able to speak to her. It was like she was under the surface almost until
Well, she had
was able to
she had
figure
no
out
real
her.
power though until Laia agreed to act as a conduit. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That was the
So
deal.
there are several stages. There was the first stage when the chick woke up and Laia, could start turning invisible. And then the second stage was when Laia defied the Nightbringer in the throne room. And then she started screaming and, everything went white. And then, they performed the magic on her and pulled her out of Laia's body. So that was like stage 3. And then they had to come together. And Laia had to invite her inside. And I feel like that's when they finally mind melded. Everything up to that point, she was just, little hints of magic inside.
Well, that was, when they did merge, or when she allowed the djinn to come in and help her, right? That was, she did that a couple of times, right? She bounced her out and then let her in, and then bounced her out and then let her in at the very end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was never a total meld. It was more like, all right, you can come in and share my head. I don't like it. It's weird. It's creepy.
Yeah.
But I need you. So come on.
Which I liked. I liked that she had the autonomy to be like, no.
Yeah, I like that too. That's a good word for it.
All right. I think probably about time we should start trying to rate these things and give us our overall thoughts on the series as a whole. There's definitely more to cover, but
this book is so damn sick.
Yeah. So I don't know who would like to go first. Should I go first for once?
Yes,
you never go first, Tamara. Go first.
I know. Classy called me out for never going first. I'm like, I'm trying to be nice. So I'm going to go first.
I figure you're the host. You get to call the shots. That's how I look at it.
Okay. So this book alone, I rated it 3 out of 5, which thinking about it now, I kind of would want possibly to change it, but I'm not going to, only because this was my instinct after I finished reading, and I'm going to stick to it. I do think that this was a great series for discussion. I think it was an interesting story. I think it was unique. I hadn't read anything like it. I liked a lot of the characters. Some of them I didn't like at first, and they had to grow on me, like Laia. I didn't really care for her in the early days. And it was a complex, but long. It was long. Too long. Every book was too long. So, and I felt the same about this installment specifically. There was a lot that could have been chopped down. I felt like I had to rewind several times to catch what the hell was going on. I don't like that. But if I can push past that, I was very happy with the ending. I was very happy with the character development for a lot of these characters. But I sold at a 3. And if I had to give this series an overall rating from start to finish, I'd probably give it a 4. I feel like if you like YA and you like fantasy and you like kind of save the world stories with a little bit of romance that's not overkill or gross, you will like this series. That's my closing thoughts. Who wants to go next?
Nicola?
I'll go next. I think I agree with you in a lot of ways, Tamara. I would probably rate it a little higher than a 3. Maybe a 4, 4.5. Overall for the series, I think I would also go with a 4. There are times in my life when I have really loved the big, sprawling 800-page fantasy novel, right? And if that's the kind of book you love, then this is a series for you. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older, or if this just wasn't, or if this was just a sprawling fantasy that needed a lot of editing. But I feel like this was I feel like there were a lot more pages to this series than there should have been. I think there's a lot of original world building in it. There's a lot of original mythology in it, but there's still some hand waviness that should have been tightened up. I think the characters are the best part of the series. I think the way the 3 characters evolved individually and together as a force to be reckoned with was amazing. But yeah, just the editing, there was too much that wandered around to make it a 5-star series.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Casey?
So I'm the opposite of both of you. And I gave this book a 5-star because as I was reading it, I kept thinking, I want to go back to book 1 and read the whole series again and just like watch it all get tied up and see if the little seeds that were planted in book 1, like, you know, the prophecies, and see how everything flows out, because I feel like going back and rereading it and knowing the ending, it will tie up beautifully, like just with a nice bow on it. And so I always say, you know, if I'm reading the last book in the series and I want to go back and start the series over, it's definitely a 5-star for me. Just because how often do you want to reread an entire ass series?
I didn't want to reread this series.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. And I'm not going to start rereading it tomorrow, like maybe next year or something. But
I don't see myself ever rereading it. One and done.
But I'm definitely going to reread it at some point. I did
think this book did a great job of delivering on the arcs, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when you get to the end of a long series, there's kind of a letdown or why didn't you deal with this bit or that bit? So I think it was a strong ending for the series, which is important. So
yeah, very strong series, very well developed. Yes, it could have been shortened and tightened in other places, but you know, that's kind of what the genre is. So I loved it. I'm glad we read it. And we can move on to something else now. And you guys don't have to reread it again.
Choice, Casey. This is a good choice. We all liked it, you know.
Yes.
We didn't all think it was perfection, but we all enjoyed it.
It's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the angst level got much more manageable after like the first half of the first book. So I was a little nervous going into that triangle.
Because I was sure going to ask you, so what about the angst?
I mean, I think, you know, the Shrike had a lot of angst all the time about everything, but it seemed kind of justified, right? That was like her burden through the whole thing, was trying to be the protector, trying to understand where her loyalties really are when they put these loyal to the Empire, but then they put Marcus on the throne. Like, I think she had a tough road to hoe.
She did, and not only did she have that tough road, like she had an extra layer because of her placement of what her job was. So yes, Laia could just be like, "Oh, this is how I feel, and I'm gonna do this."
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, this is how I feel, but I can't show this. I can't act like this. I have to do this. So she had more reason, I guess, in her private brain to be like a little bit angsty. She earned it. I feel like
she had more conflict.
Yes.
I think. Yeah, I agree. So maybe Elias had some more than Laia. Laia starts out in Laia's world. It's black and white, right? So the Marshals are bad. They killed her family. They suck, and we got to bring down the Nightbringer. Once she figured out who that was, she's got a very black and white outlook. Elias was pretty clear on what he wanted, right? He didn't like the Marshals, but he had loyalty to specific friends. And but yeah, I think Helene had a lot of right from wrong to sort out.
She had a lot, because even at the beginning, like, not to drag on about her, but in the beginning, she was like, what's wrong with having slaves? We need slaves. And now she's like, no slaves, we're all equal. If you can't get behind that, I'm not your girl. And I'm like, yeah. So she grew like all kind of ways.
I mean, not to get too deep, but I do think that this whole series is about oppression and the history of oppression, and examining where that comes from and why it's happening, and understanding, you know, the right from the wrong, and understanding that, you know, bad things are perpetrated by both sides, but that kind of oppression is never right.
Yeah, exactly. And she had to grow into that, because she was like, these are the rules.
She was indoctrinated.
Right, exactly. All right.
Systemic. She had.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well said. So that's it. We're at the end. You guys let us know what you thought about it. Join us in Shelf Addiction Official if you want to talk about it with us there. I'd love to hear what you have to think about the series as a whole. Are you with us?
Yes. Come talk to us.
Yeah, let us know. And that's it. So come over to the Facebook group. We have some fun things going this summer. We have some fun stuff for July and August, and you don't want to miss out on that before we start our new series. So you want to be in the loop, follow us over there. And that's it for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction Podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.